Up, First Familia? I'm Jay Flores, American Ninja Warrior, and I just also competed on Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity? I am a huge fan of all of you in the First community, and I'm so excited for the Get Anywhere campaign that has just launched. And we're going to have someone here today that's going to be a very special guest that is going to share her journey and all of the amazing things that she has done, and hopefully inspire all of you to see all of the places that you can go if you start with first. Because if you start with first and you build those skills, you will be able to get anywhere. No matter what it is that you're excited about, we are going to make that happen today. So we're going to go ahead and add our guest today. And we should have her with us in a second. And then I'll give you all introduction to, here we go. All right, welcome Jayshree.
Hey Jay, how are you? Good to see you again.
So good to see you again as well, although this time virtually, but we do get our chances every once in a while to meet at conferences and hopefully at Future First events as well.
Yes.
So for our audience, I want to share a little bit of your background, and then we'll go ahead and get started with some of the questions. We see a lot of energy in the chat right now, which is great, and a lot of excitement around this year's theme. So we're excited to have 3M corporate scientist and first ever chief science advocate, which is one of the coolest titles I've ever heard, with us today. She has a PhD in chemical engineering and has 80 patents to her name for a variety of innovations. She's the fourth woman and the very first woman engineer to be inducted into the 3M Innovation Hall of Fame, which is pretty awesome as well. It's known as the Carlton Society. And Jayshree is an award-winning engineer. She's a sought-after speaker. She's an author. She's a thought leader. She's been featured also in like local, national, and even international media. So I'm really excited to have Jayshree with us and in the chat. Please join me in welcoming Jayshree to our lives today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, I know a little bit about your background, but there's so many things. Every time I read your bio or one of your posts or a story, I get even more impressed and excited about all you're doing. But most importantly, I'm very excited about what you do to inspire others. And I hope that we'll be able to bring that out of this conversation today, because the Get Anywhere campaign with First is understanding about how do we gain the skills that you need to then get wherever it is you want to go in the future. Even if you're not sure what that looks like today, you'll be prepared to get anywhere. So Jayshree, for you, I want to go back kind of to when you were one of the students that might be listening in. So growing up, what careers did you see yourself in? What interested you when you were maybe the age of the students on the call today?
Wow, you're taking me back, aren't you? Well, when I was young and I was interacting with teachers for the first time, it's like the first professional you meet. I wanted to be a teacher. And then when I got sick and my first visit to a doctor that I can remember, I thought that's what I want to do because they help people and make people feel better. And it gave me this sense of that's what I want to do. And so I later remember writing an essay about being a social worker. And then when I found out about the power of the pen, I wanted to be a journalist and I wanted to write. Truth be told, I never thought of myself as what I thought was the science and engineering type. And the strangest part about that is I grew up on the campus of an engineering institution, one of the oldest engineering institutions in all of Asia. So this was in northern India, a very prestigious school, and my dad was a university professor there. And everybody was just steeped in science, technology, engineering, and math. Everybody that I looked up to, looked around, was either a scientist or an engineer. But we were so steeped in it, and it was so strongly encouraged for the kids. I never saw the connection of what I wanted to do. Nobody ever talked about the fact that as a scientist or an engineer, you can help people. You can improve lives. You can make the world a better place. And so I was never excited about that. So it's kind of interesting that I started out as not the science type.
Yeah, and I feel there's a lot of us that may sometimes take for granted all the science that is around us at all times, and you were really in the thick of it, so you almost kind of like, oh yeah, that's how things work, but not realizing the connections to what you can do in that space. So from there, then, how did you discover STEM, and then how did that then align to the other interests you were talking about, or did that then open new interests and aspirations?
Yes. So I did follow the engineering path because I had very strong recommendation from my parents. So both my brother and I, we became engineers. And I came to the US for graduate school from India. And then when I was in graduate school, I kind of hit a low point because I thought, is this what I wanted to do? Like, I wanted to help people. I want to work on something that I can see a direct connection. And unfortunately, nobody took the time even then to explain what I was doing was actually something that would eventually help us. But I needed that context. So what I did is I changed from my master's to my PhD. And I actually started working in an area where I could use my hands, do these experiments, and I was building hard diamond-like coatings that go on tools that make tools last longer. And that gave me the context that I needed. I am doing something that is going to help somebody. And it kind of lit a fire under me. So I'm kind of a late bloomer. That's when I realized, oh, wow, I can research into this area, make these coatings better and better so they're more durable, so that tools last longer, and it helps out. And so that's when I realized that, wow, there are so many ways and so many things that you can do that can actually improve. And then after my PhD, I was actually a summer intern at 3M, and I got a job offer. And I was like, I love this place. I'm going to come back. And in looking back, what really I enjoyed was the sense of empowerment, an emphasis on collaboration, and a communal context of improving lives. And that really just came together for me. So interestingly, I was working on diamond-like carbon films, but when I joined 3M, I started working in the areas of disposable diapers. So I went from like diamonds to diapers, from durable to disposable, from hard coatings to soft materials. But I didn't care because to me, it was like, I can see the context. I can see why we need to have soft diapers and closures to keep these diapers on wiggly babies. I mean, it gave me the context and it gave me the inspiration. And I had already once before sort of gone through this process of starting over and figuring out a new area. And that skill that I had gotten over my STEM education really helped me make this transition.
I love that how close this connects to the Get Anywhere campaign because whether it's diamonds or diapers, you developed over time the skills you needed to solve that problem. And I really want to emphasize what you mentioned around helping people because I feel helping people usually also connects often to a passion you have. And students may not know exactly what they want to be, but they might know what they're passionate about or areas in which they might want to help other people. And the engagement with organizations like FIRST and the skills that you will gain from it will help you then get there in the future, whether it ends up being diamonds, diapers, or something in between. But so I love how you connect, and it's kind of cool that they're both D's, the alliteration there. I think this might be another book for you if you haven't already have diamonds to diapers in the work for a book. But how did you can you like elaborate on how you use your STEM skills in both of those fields? Was it almost like copy paste over here, or did you kind of use your STEM skills differently in these roles? But either way, I'm assuming that those skills were transferable across the many things you've done in your career.
Absolutely. It's spot on. And it's so funny. I usually say diamonds to diapers, what's the difference? I'd never seen a diamond and I'd never seen a diaper. And that's true. I'd never seen a disposable diaper. When I was growing up, back then, people didn't use the diapers in where I was. And so it was all very fascinating to me and a lot of things to learn. And that's really the key. Whether you're doing your PhD research or you are doing your product development like I was, fundamentally, it's about understanding the problem to solve. What specifically are you trying to solve for? And then the skill of looking at that problem from every angle. So now you're looking at it from the user's angle. The baby can't talk, but you have to understand what the requirements are. You're also looking at packaging. You're looking at all sorts of different things. And then you're saying, okay, in order to solve this problem, how do I break it down into smaller problems? What are some ideas we can try? What are some technologies we can use? What do we already know? What we need to find out? So it's the same basic skills that had been honed through so many years of STEM education that I was able to use and go from diamonds to diapers as I was in diapers, I call it, for my journey, because
In your
I was
career.
just trying to understand in my career the beginning process of how it works. And so it was just like that for me. And the skills were there because if you take two steps back, there's no reason to be intimidated. Every problem virtually has the same kind of approach that you need to use, and that's what I did. So relying on those skills was extremely important, whether it's diamond or diapers or anything else for that matter.
I think that's wonderful for the students that are also worried about how fast things are changing. Those skill sets will allow you to then be able to adapt as things change, as your career changes naturally as well. Having that is going to allow you to then take that next step, whether that's vertically in your career or a career change or an industry change or some kind of disruption. Overall, those skills are going to be able to continue with you wherever you go, even if you use them a little differently.
Yeah.
So for everyone tuning in now, we are with Jayshree Seth. She is the Chief Science Advocate at 3M. She's got 80 patents. She's written several books. She's in the 3M Innovation Hall of Fame, all kinds of wonderful accomplishments. And we're going through how her journey through STEM has allowed her to get into these many wonderful things that I hope you'll all be inspired by and be able to connect it to maybe what you are personally excited for. So the next kind of area I want to go in is around the STEM advocacy work. You know, we love to get out there into the community and inspire others. But I recognize that people, you know, have different experiences with different ways STEM impacts their everyday life. And that also goes across industries. So at 3M, what are some of the different industries and roles that leverage STEM skills?
Oh boy, is there a role that doesn't leverage STEM skills? That's kind of what I want to say, because think about it. We have people who take basic science and develop applied science so that we can develop products. So you've got people who develop technology, people who develop products. Once you have the product prototypes, you have to scale it. And in order to scale it, you need to be able to manufacture it. In order to be able to manufacture it at a large scale, you need all these different STEM skills. Then you have to be able to technically sell it. These are technical products. And so you need to be able to do that. So think about critical thinking, problem solving, working with other people, collaboration, communication, project management, entrepreneurship. All of those skills are needed in all of these different fields across the whole lab to the factory to the field sort of journey of a product. So STEM skills and all the skills that can be applied to bring people, technology, needs, and markets together to come up with innovative ideas. We're in the business of innovation. And that means you have to use all these skills in order to be able to bring it to life, from idea to innovation.
Okay. And kind of a add on to that question, earlier in the conversation, you talked about all the other interests you had early on. I'm assuming those also translated as well, like your journalism and communication then translates to how do I communicate this in a technical
Absolutely.
environment?
Absolutely. I say when you have a new idea, and if you want to really pursue that idea, there's nothing that you can achieve alone. You need a group of people to be working on that. You need a group of people to have buy-in into that. So a critical part of the role also becomes the ability to be able to inform, the ability to be able to influence, and the ability to be able to inspire, because that's what it takes. So you take this initiative, and then how are you going to inform people that what you want to work on, this is important? So all your community communication skills come into play? How are you going to influence people and convince them that we need resources to work on this? Your storytelling skills will come into play because you're going to put it all together and say, this is why we need to do that. And then the ability to inspire also comes from great communication skills, where you paint the picture of what is possible if you go down this path. So you balance out the whole idea of what you want to do with how you want to communicate it, and be very authentic in that and say, I have looked into this area and we should pursue this. Here's why, and here's how we're going to do it. Here's why it matters to us. Here's why it's important to the market. Here's what we can bring in. Look, we have 49 technology platforms. We can draw from all these, and then we can do this. If not us, who else? So that ability to take initiative, to inform, to influence, to inspire, and have impact takes all of those skills that I didn't realize, Jay, were going to be so important. And that's a key message that I know you want to send to the students, and I do too, is that we don't know what we don't know.
Yes.
So we always have to keep an open mind, and you never know what skills and talents you're bringing that might be useful in your STEM career.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that's so wonderful about how FIRST runs its competition seasons every year, that the problem changes, the challenges are different. You might be able to draw from what your robot did last year, but now it has to do a few other different tasks. The game piece size and dimensions and shape might change, and you're kind of getting practice for what that's going to look like in the future. And then now it's just, how do you continue to take those skills and learning process to help you get to where you end up wanting to go. So for everyone in the chat, I see some teams showcasing their team numbers. You guys can go ahead and share where you're coming from. Also, we're going to take some questions from the audience at the end. So if you would like to ask Jayshree a question, please submit it in the via the question feature. You can put it in the comments, but we're getting lots of comments, so it might not come through as easily. If you could go ahead and put your questions for Jayshree in using the question feature. So I want to talk now about one of the coolest titles I've ever heard. So as a corporate scientist and 3M's chief science advocate, what kind of roles do you see a need for at 3M? What types of skill sets and talent is 3M looking for?
Yeah, we are looking at across the board, based on everything that is going on, critical thinking skills as well as functional skills, right? And teamwork. So everything that we have talked about. When I look at the world right now, with all the challenges that are ahead of us that we need to solve for, we need a lot of different kinds of skill sets coming together to have that spark of creativity. So 3M, for example, we are in the consumer business, like with our Post-it notes and command hooks. So that's a completely different area. We are also in the automotive business. We have batteries and insulation materials and all of that. We're also in aerospace. We're also in consumer healthcare. We are also in automation and robotics. So if you think about all of that, there is virtually any skill or any expertise that's out there, we are looking for that. Once you bring your expertise in, obviously you have to be able to work with others, and you have to think through this problem solving. You have to have the ability to solve these problems, and you have the ability to learn, because there's so much to learn that we don't really know when we're going through school or even graduate school. And when you come and start working in your roles, you figure out there's so much more to learn. There is a little bit of unlearning that needs to happen so that you get really good at what you need to learn. And one more thing I would like to mention is, like, people have preconceived notions about different careers and different fields. You know, they kind of think, oh, somebody's working on cars, so they're a specific thing. But think about it. Cars also have paint on them. Cars also have displays on them. One is completely different from the other, but they're both related to cars. We also have seat sensors in cars. Sensors are completely different. So having a preconceived idea of what these roles are doesn't work. Thinking about it expansively is more important. And these days, electronics is blurred with automotive, is blurred with consumer, is blurred with medical. Everything is sort of blurring. So we are also looking for interdisciplinary experience, which is bringing these different pieces together.
Yeah, I think the world and also now products are becoming more and more connected. And then that ties in,
Yes.
like you said, mechanical engineers for part of the car, and then chemical engineers for the paint, maybe, and then computer scientists and hardware engineers, all kinds of different roles that come together to make that one thing. And that's a car, which is a somewhat complicated product, but there's other simpler products that still use a wide variety of engineering.
Absolutely. I mean, look at our Post-it notes, right? Everybody uses them. I hope everybody uses them, but it's paper. Then there's adhesive. Then there's the converting of that to get it in that particular package. There's lots of things. And then there's the packaging. I mean, so many different things come together. So it's not just chemical science and physical science and data science, but it's also social science. How do people use certain things? What are the behaviors that are associated with that? So it's a lot deeper, richer, and varied than we typically like to think. And that was a learning I had.
Okay. So I see there's some students sharing in the comments that they love Post-its. So if you use or love Post-it, please put that into the comments. Spam the chat with the comment Post-it. Definitely a product that everybody's aware of. But you mentioned so many others that 3M works on, and having those interdisciplinary skills. And I think, again, for students, as you work on a team, you're going to find certain things that you're very passionate about that might be your primary focus on the team, but always take opportunities to learn a little bit from one of the other parts of your team, right? So if you're on build, spend a little bit of time with programming, spend a little bit of time with a team that's working on community service. You get a little bit of experience in each of those areas so that if you end up having a shift in the future, you are much more prepared with different skill sets. And then again, I'm starting to see some people put questions into the question feature, so that's great. We'll get to those towards the end. But please go ahead and answer or put in, sorry, any other questions that you have for Jayshree, and then we will also um, continue on with those towards the end. So for our students that are trying to find their path, right? Maybe they joined a robotics team because it seemed cool, or they saw the flyer, but they're not exactly sure where they want to take this. What advice do you have, or what guidance do you have for them as they try to find their path?
Yeah, and this is a great question because it links back to my own story, right? I mean, I never thought that I would be in this position that I am in right now. I'm the highest level you can achieve as a scientist at 3M. 80 patents, as you mentioned, and products and awards and all of that. And for somebody who started out thinking they were not the science type, I'm the chief science advocate.
That's not bad. I think you're doing okay.
Right. And I'm telling you that story not to, sort of brag, but to really make people understand that sometimes we just don't know. And we can't have preconceived notions or say, things like, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at this, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. What you'll realize is that through STEM education, you can develop all these different attributes and get a whole sort of holistic perspective on all the things that you can do. I mean, truly, you can get anywhere, right? So here's the secret. Your success depends on how you develop your skills, how you nurture your talent, how you build your expertise, and how you cultivate a mindset. That is the real STEM: skill, talent, expertise, and mindset. So anytime you see the word STEM, think about the STEM that I just offered, because that'll give
Skill,
you
talent,
talent, expertise,
expertise, and
and
mindset.
mindset.
And write
Yes.
that down, everybody.
Yes. So that's what I think you should be thinking more about, rather than I'm not good at science, or I'm not good at math, or I'm good at only this, or I like only this. And what will happen is, as I found out, you realize that you get good at certain things. It's not that you are, oh, I'm good at this. No, no, no. You get good at certain things. What I've also realized is you learn to enjoy certain things. Not just I enjoy these things, but you learn to enjoy these things. And then I also found that you can find where you can add unique value. You just don't know it. And again, from my journey till 2018, I was minding my own business, doing my stuff in the lab, and then they approached me to be the chief science advocate. Did I know how to do that? No. How did I address that? Exactly like how you and I talked about. Okay, they're asking me to be chief science advocate. That means I have to advocate for science. What does that mean? Why do we need to advocate? What does the public think about it? So breaking down the problems, especially based on all the skills that I learned through my STEM education. And did I think I would be good at it? I had no idea, right? But I realized I could get good at it. I realized that I could learn to enjoy it. And I realized that I found a place to add unique value by bringing my authentic story rather than saying, I always wanted to be a scientist. I'm here admitting that I didn't know that I would be good at this because that's just not how science was talked about. And each and every day, Jay, I think about so many students and scientists and so many ideas and innovations and so many leaders and legends that we're missing out on because of how we teach, train, track, typify, and even talk about STEM. And that's why I really think that students should opt for opportunities like FIRST that you talked about, because that is a training ground for some of the things and figuring out those skills, those innate talents, that expertise, and your mindset.
Yeah, I'm seeing people in the chat as well repeating your acronym, so I think that really resonated with the people listening in right now. I'm happy for that. Yeah, definitely write that down. Think about it as you plan out your goals and your dreams. But I think you had so many good, important nuggets on this question. So if you don't mind, I want to elaborate on a few of those things. One being that you're the first ever chief science advocate. So it literally did not exist as you were starting off on this plan. This was not a job that like when I grow up, I'm going to be the 3M chief science advocate. And, that's going to be my goals. I'm sure you didn't go out on this journey saying, I'm going to get specifically by this point in my career, 80 patents, right? There's kind of things that go along the way that you set yourself up for, even though you didn't know they were available. So I think to the students listening in, that's exactly what you're gaining from your STEM skills with FIRST, is you're gaining the things that you need to let you get anywhere. We don't know what anywhere is yet. You don't know you might not know where that is yet. But so do you have any advice for students that feel like they need to know what's next? Were there any times in your career where you felt like stuck, like why am I not in the next thing, or was it a little more of a natural flow for you?
Yeah, for me, there was definitely the formative meandering where you're trying to find yourself, and you realize that you have to think about the barriers and the biases and the boundaries and the beliefs that are holding you back. So education is also not just figuring out what is in the books, but what is in your heart, what is in your mind, what is in your soul, what do you want to do? But then once you are on that journey of discovery, you realize all the things that are holding you back and then how you can propel yourself further, right? So a lot of it is up here. And that's where we have to get in touch with that. And once you do that, then I feel like now I'm on this path to enlightenment where I just want to share what I have learned. Because my story is kind of like that. You just mentioned the chief science advocate. And my first reaction when I was offered that role was, whoa, wait a minute. Because you Google it, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist anywhere. So there's no blueprint for this. And I'm going, wait a minute. Why am I going to get out of the lab and do this for part of my time? I could be doing 10 more experiments, right? Because you see value in what you do in the moment. But then you have to open up your mind and go, wait a minute. If the public doesn't care that much about science and we don't advocate for it, what good is it that we are working on all these things and they are science-based, scalable, sustainable solutions? You need to bring the public along. So it just opens up doors in your head that were closed for all this while. And then my own story, I started thinking about it and I started thinking about, wait a minute, do I want the path to be better for those that are coming after me? Yes. Have you ever stood up, shown up, or spoken up for someone? Yes. Have you ever thought there should be a better way and fix this system? Yes. And if that's the case, I need to give my advocacy some sense of agency. I need to give it that primacy of purpose. And so I found purpose in it. And you never know when you're going to find it, right? I've been at 3M for 31 years. And in 2018 is when just 6 years ago, when I came into this role. And now I had to find how to do this. And if I would have said no, I would have stopped from this amazing journey that I've been on, which I feel so strongly about. I feel strongly about the fact that we need more people in science who have a humanities context, who bring the social side of science, who are good at communication and have the ability to inspire so we can solve tough challenges. I mean, honestly, and I know you are also very much into this, the problems that we face, we're going to have to get all the diversity of thoughts and experiences that we can put together. We're not going to solve it if we're from the same college, same community, same country, same company for that matter. And we need all of that. And that's why I feel strongly about this role where we advocate for science and for diversity in STEM fields. And I write a lot about that in my books because I feel very strongly, and my book is full of acronyms.
I love it. So I'm seeing a lot of the students in the chat again talking about which teams they're participating on, whether they're on build team or scouting or coding. And I think kind of what you're tying in here also goes into if you're on build team, but you have an idea that might help another one of the teams, like have that confidence and hopefully comfort amongst your team to go out and showcase, that different perspective that you might provide. Is that something that you found valuable in your career as you work amongst different types of teams?
Absolutely. I cannot emphasize how important it is to collect all sorts of diverse perspectives because at the end of the day, you're trying to make the best possible prototype. And for it to be the best possible prototype, you've got to have all these ideas, which could be the obvious ideas and the completely off the wall ideas, but just talking through them makes what we at 3M call uncommon connections. Suddenly you get these connections that you wouldn't have had you not taken me down that path. And then you go, you know what? It sounds kooky, but how about connecting that with that? And suddenly everybody is on this path and it spurs creativity. And it may not end up in the final prototype, but just that process of thinking and bringing that different thinking is so important. Anytime we define a problem very narrowly, we are making it a very vulnerable solution. So if you are in first and you are in this team and you have to take care of this challenge, don't fall in love with the solution right away. Think about the problem. Solicit from others any off the wall ideas, any ideas that may be bizarre, any weird things that we could build. And you never know. You never know. But what it requires, exactly like you said, is the ability to express yourself, feel comfortable doing that, having the safety in your team so that you can share all these ideas and having clear communication. I'm a first parent. My son was in first. Woodbury High School, Royal T-Rex. It was so important for them to bring everybody's thoughts and opinions out, and the mentors and everybody plays an important role in facilitating that back and forth. That's how you come up with the best possible solution. And because everybody has contributed, you get the sense of ownership. You need a sense of ownership and commitment. You need skin in the game. And that's so important for team building, whether it's for first or whether it's for product development in a large corporation.
100%. And the cool thing for all of you listening in is you're young in your careers of STEM. So some of these ideas that might sound a little far off now, you've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years to start working on making them possible. So I love that we just put those ideas out there and then maybe we reverse engineer what are those steps that we don't have right now that might be possible in the future. And so your first experience is a great way to get started on that, but then also just remembering that engineering is just problem solving and you get to choose the types of problems you want to solve, and your curiosity and your creativity is what's gonna get those wonderful ideas, and then the skills that organizations like First Provide will then help you make that a reality. So I hope that Jayshree has inspired all of you to go ahead and start dreaming big about the problems that you want to solve. Speaking of other big dreams and goals and accomplishments that you've had, I want to learn a little bit more about your books and how you've used that as a platform to continue to inspire many others. You're a great speaker, but an author is another great avenue to reach even more students and people to help us out with STEM. So, can you share a little bit about your books and what you hope
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
accomplish?
it's a very exciting week. My third book has just come out.
Congrats.
And thank you so much. And these books are part of the skin in the game for me. So I was given this role of chief science advocate, right? And for me, just like my projects, I addressed it exactly like I do my projects. What is it that we want to do? What is the problem we want to solve? And the way I like to think about the problems is, what is the long game? How do we get ahead in the game? And what is my skin in the game, right? So the long game is that we want to have a diverse, robust pipeline of STEM talent. So we decided that we were going to do research to understand why is it that sometimes women and underrepresented in STEM don't stay with STEM and drop out or choose other careers or go through their STEM education and don't join STEM workforce. And so we at 3M collaborated with Indiana University to actually do a research project to understand how to sustain their interest. And we found that purpose reflection and just thinking about why you're doing your STEM degree goes a long way in building your sense of belonging, which is very important, the importance of purpose, like you talked about. So that's kind of the long game. So getting ahead of the game for me was like, what is it that we can do that hasn't been talked about? And we think a lot about this at 3M because we have a long-standing commitment to STEM in the communities we operate in. We have like programs like Visiting Wizards, where we go to students and show them the magic of science and then show how it is real. So we're trying to make it more accessible, more relatable, and more tangible, right? That's how you inspire students. And you hopefully tap into their sense of curiosity or their awe or their wonder or their hobbies or their passion and really build on that. So, and we have programs like Tech Talks where we visit students in their classrooms and we talk about our careers and what we're working on. And when they see us and then they see our thinking, they can aspire to that. So that's the other piece. And we also support organizations like FIRST, again, because it gives you that creative and that curiosity and an outlet for team building and learning skills as well. But there was something about encouraging women and girls in science that also became important. And this happened because of research that we do at 3M called State of Science, which is to understand the public perception of science, because it's important to bring the public along. And people said after the pandemic that there is a huge issue as it relates to diversity in STEM fields, and we need to inspire more women and girls. So we actually created a docuseries, Not the Science Type. And it is basically to dismantle the archetypes and shatter the stereotypes and change the constructs of who enters, who persists, and who excels in STEM. We wanted to show that it doesn't matter what your race, ethnicity, gender, or nationality is. Science needs you, and science needs you to be you. And so those are the kinds of things, programming that we have done. We have also committed to 5 million STEM and skilled trade experiences for underrepresented individuals by 2025, because we want to give hands-on experience that can hopefully inspire kids to come to these STEM fields, right? The third thing to me is skin in the game, my skin in the game. And I write a lot about different things like leadership, innovation, where do ideas come from, how to work in a team, how to manage your time, etc. And I decided that I'm going to put all those essays together after 2020 and the social unrest. And I'm in Minnesota. Memorial Day weekend was not a great weekend for any of us. And the raw and revealing events just made me think about what can I do? And so all these went into a book that then was published by Society of Women Engineers. That's where you and I met last. And all proceeds go to a scholarship for underrepresented women in STEM. So that's my skin in the game as a science advocate. And it was so amazing to meet the first scholar that I decided to write the second book. And with 2 books, we had 4 scholars. Now we've just got 5. And so the third book has now come out in the trilogy. So in my books, essentially, I have these mental frameworks like STEM, skills, talent, expertise, and mindset. All those kinds of things to break it down into simple pieces, just like we do in science, and then talk about how do you solve this problem, right? And so all my books have these frameworks, and all proceeds go to the same scholarship. And I'm so excited that we now have 5 scholars whose journey in part has been supported from the sales of these books. So that's the long story.
Thank you so much for all of that. One, for taking the time to put this out there for others to be able to learn and to grow and be inspired. Also, obviously, the scholars that now what they're going to be able to do, I hope will have a large impact on the world. And then also to 3M for all the support of First and First teams across the nation and world. So we're going to give everybody a last second chance to submit any questions that you have for Jayshree in the chat. Again, she is the Chief Science Advocate at 3M and has a long list of incredible accomplishments. And before we go to those questions, I just want to say that she's just showed you the example of how these skills can help you get anywhere. Author, speaker, Chief Science Advocate, the 3M Innovation Hall of Fame. Again, these are all things that those skills in some way or another allowed her to get to where she is today. And thank you, Jayshree, for then now taking that and helping then lift that next generation of innovators and those that will have 180 patents someday, hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead here and check. So again, if you have questions, please put them into the question feature here so that I make sure we don't lose them in the chat. So one of the first questions here is around 3M internships. So they mentioned, or you mentioned, sorry, that you did your internship with 3M and that's how you got into your career. Can you share a little bit about the value of that? And then they're also asking, does 3M still have internships?
Absolutely. 3M has internships. Go to 3m.com. And internships are just an amazing experience to get a peek into the real world. You know, when you're in school, it's a different objective and it's a different mindset. And then when you come to a organization where you're interning, you get to see, oh, now I have to apply what I'm learning. And it's a different mindset. And I was just amazed at the breadth of what I saw when I came. And I was like, wow. And so I was working in the area of abrasives, and we were making these abrasive particles with a certain shape. And when I came back after my internship, when I got a full-time position, my first idea linked back to what I had seen in abrasives. Now think about it. I brought abrasives to diapers. That's not the first thing or the last thing that you'd think about, but it was that particular structure that inspired me. So I actually got to live that uncommon connection piece and bring from my summer internship. And it was amazing that I got to work with people who I didn't realize were just like absolutely the leaders in those fields. And they gave me so much respect. And as an intern, I was participating in all of that and the inventive process and coming up with new ideas, running experiments, analyzing data, writing reports, presenting my work. So it just gave me that job light experience in real time. And so internships are wonderful, not only for the students, but also for the organization, because they got to see how I operate. And despite not having specific skills or expertise in that area, my talent and mindset allowed me to be hired into this role where I had not even seen a diaper. Of course, I didn't tell them that, but then I was like, when I first saw, I'm like, okay, this is what it is. So yes, internships, go for them. As many internships as you can do so you get an idea of what it is like to apply what you're learning in school.
I think that was a wonderful nugget there with the diapers. Like you trusted the other parts of your STEM to help you go into something that may have been unknown or maybe a little bit uncomfortable. You didn't have all the answers, right? And just like the students are not going to have all the answers for the challenge every year, but it's about trusting those skills, and then understanding that you can grow and develop those skills even further with every new challenge you face, because everything's going to be evolving there. So yeah, I think that was wonderful, and I hope students will really resonate with that as they continue to grow in their first careers. We have another question from a student that she's in, sorry, he or she is in their first year of an FRC team. So I want to broaden it a little bit more to any student that might be in their first year of robotics. What are any advice that you have someone entering this wonderful world and being part of a team?
Yes, that's a great question. I think a couple of things, if I may. One, find mentors, people who can, and it doesn't have to be somebody who you have a preconceived notion about what a mentor is. I am a firm believer in peer mentorship. You can learn so much from the people around you because you're interacting with them so much more. So it's all about having the framework in your mind of menteeship. And that's one of the chapters in my book. I talk about how to reframe mentorship. It can be a lot of mentoring of just peers and just making the space for that where you're learning from others, right? So that's one. Number two is if you have ideas and you feel uncomfortable addressing them, find few allies that you can discuss and say, hey, I was thinking about this. Maybe we should use it here. What do you think about that? And should I bring it up? And now you have created all these allies who will be like, yeah, we think you should bring it up. And when you do bring it up, they're going to be like, yeah, I thought it was a reasonable idea, that kind of stuff. Don't not share your ideas because you are new. In fact, think about it. You're bringing a fresh perspective. So hang your hat on that. You can even start by saying, hey, I'm new, and maybe you all have discussed it, but I just wanted to understand X, Y, and Z. And what it does is not only shows that you're bringing a fresh perspective, and you never know. People might be like, you know what? We should revisit that. And maybe we should think about that this way. So that's the number three is kind of a kooky one, but write down what you are learning. Just write it down. And you will be able to see your own growth. And there's something to that where you see your own growth. Because it's so easy for us to say, oh, I didn't, or I wasn't, you look at that growth and you go, wow, how far have I come? And what that does is number four, allows you to mentor someone else. And so make sure that as you come in new, you remember what you felt like. And that'll make you just a better mentor for someone else next year as they come into their first year. So those are some of the things that I would recommend.
Those are extremely valuable. And I think students listening in, there's going to be tons of times throughout your journey where you might have some self-doubt, or you might be a little bit concerned about a new challenge you're taking on, but writing those accomplishments that you've made is going to just remind you that, yeah, when I accomplished this, I didn't know how to do it. I didn't have all the skills I needed, but I was able to go in and get mentors and advice and work hard and learn and fail sometimes and figure it out, right? So you can remind yourself of how you went through those challenges. And I think with every new one, the next one then is like, okay, I haven't faced this particular obstacle, but I've done this one that might allow me to then be able to better tackle this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When people ask me, Jayshree, what's your superpower? You know what I answer? I say I can see patterns in gaps and gaps in patterns. It is so interesting. Yeah, when you have done something for 30 years, right? The problem is never the same, but you can see the patterns. And once you see the patterns or you see the gaps, you know how you want to address them. And so it's very important. And something very important that you also said, which I want to echo, which is not everything you try will work out. In fact, a lot of things that you try will not work out. But that doesn't mean you didn't learn anything. It's always about what did we learn. And if you take an informed risk and you do an experiment that was warranted and it doesn't work out, you still learned a lot. And you should communicate those learnings. That is very important. And science works on hypothesis, which means it may or may not pan out. So you have to be resilient in this journey, it's not a failure if you learn something. And so I've worked on many projects, some for years, which yielded nothing. But did we learn a lot? Absolutely. Were we able to use those learnings elsewhere? Absolutely. So reframe that and don't say, oh, we failed. It's never like that.
Yeah, I like to use an example that failure is still a building block, right? It's maybe not the most comfortable building block.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the most fun, but it's still something that you keep growing from, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
throw out all your failures and don't use them and don't learn from them, then you're not advancing, right? You can still continue to grow even if it's not as comfortable. And then as you're getting into those scenarios where you might feel uncomfortable, that's kind of what doing things for the first time is. And
Mm-hmm.
that's in the end, engineering and science and what we're trying to accomplish with solving problems. We're trying to do things that have never been done before or haven't been done in a unique way or maybe in a sustainable way. And that's going to provide scenarios that are challenging, that have a lot of failure, that have a little bit of discomfort. But pushing through that, solving the problems, learning from your failures is going to lead to really cool, fun
Yes.
accomplishments.
If I would make a comment there also. One thing you realize is there's external validation, the external awards and rewards or whatever, but there's an internal satisfaction also.
Mhm.
And the failures may not give you the external validation you were seeking, but you need to understand the sense of satisfaction you get from that was the right thing to do, we did it, and this is what we learned. So make sure that you have the right balance between the external validation and doing the right thing that was warranted in that moment to learn the most you could. And that as you grow older, you'll see that sense of satisfaction balances out that external validation. And then you're like, yeah, no, but that was the right thing to do. It may not have yielded this many dollars, or it may not have gotten this prize or whatever, but that was the prudent thing to do in that moment in time. And the more you're able to communicate, the better sense of satisfaction you will get.
I love that. And it's true. That's what's going to keep you going when things get difficult or challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of that, we have a question here from a student that I hope is not very common, but unfortunately, I think often is, which is around what advice do you have for students who might be told you don't have what it takes in STEM?
Um, I will say ignore it really, because who knows what exactly it takes. We just spent an hour talking about the fact that I didn't think I had what it took in STEM. And I've been very successful because I realized there was some things that where I could add value. So people like to take complex things like STEM and very complex things like success and make it very unidimensional and say, oh, you just have to be good at math, or A, you just have to be able to do this, or you got to be a straight A student or whatever. That's not how the real life works. And so you have to make sure that as long as you are committed to that path, I will say this, you have to work hard, but where do you not have to work hard? If you want to be the top chef, you have to work hard. You want to be the top artist, do you have any idea of the hours they work? So in order to be good at anything, you have to put in the time. So you have to work hard. It's your commitment that matters more versus somebody saying whether you're good or not. So figure out what you think people think you don't have and see how you can make yourself better at this. Practice, talk to other people, look at different guidance, put in the time to figure out how to make sure you can do better at certain things. Go to teachers, find tutors. I mean, there's so many things. There's one thing to pass the classes, and then there's another thing to be a very successful person in the STEM field. And I am telling you, they don't overlap completely at all. So that is the truth.
I agree with that one 100%. You know, there's certain societal pressures or measurements that we use sometimes to tell whether you can or can't do something. But I think, especially in STEM, it really comes down to, are you curious about it? Are you passionate about it? And are you willing to learn the math and science you need to then solve it? And I feel that people that have that curiosity and that passion, then, as you mentioned earlier, then that makes it more fun for you to learn the things you need to do to get to it, because you're working on something that you're excited about, whether it's difficult or not. And I hope that those of you listening in that are on teams will find that through your journey with First. And if not, just start thinking about what problems you want to solve and what things excite you. And then kind of start thinking, okay, well, what's the science and the engineering and the math behind those areas? And that'll allow you to find something that's fun and rewarding career, like as Jayshree's has developed into. So I think we're at time for questions, but Jayshree, I want to give you a moment to share any parting thoughts, any last pieces of advice before we say goodbye to all the students listening in.
Well, I want to wish all the students all the best for their first challenges. And I want to remind them that it's not just talent that counts, it's also tenacity. It is not just intellect that matters, it is also initiative. It's not just your curiosity that'll carry you through, but also creativity. And it's not just knowledge, it is also know how. And that's what First and experiences like this teach you. Your talent will only take you so far if you don't have the tenacity to go at a problem. Your intellect is of virtually no use if you don't take the initiative to use it. Curiosity is great, but at some point you will need to infuse it with creativity to come up with solutions. And knowledge is wonderful, but if you don't have the know-how how to get it done, it's just going to sit around. And society talks about these four things, but this next layer is what has made people like me successful. The ability to be tenacious, to really take initiative, to bring creativity, and rely on know-how. And that's what makes you tick. That's another acronym.
Mhm. Perfect. I love your acronyms.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, for all the inspiration and advice you shared with students today. I know this is something that those listening in live and those that will listen afterwards are going to be able to take some action from. And so that's our challenge to all of you, is not just to listen and be inspired, but then to take that initiative, as Jayshree just said, to then start applying it to your team, to your future aspirations and careers. And I also want to thank 3M for their support of the Get Anywhere campaign. Just a reminder again, the skill sets that you're gaining through First today are going to allow you to get anywhere tomorrow. So whether you know exactly what you want to do or you have no idea, just know that developing these skill sets with First and with your teams are going to allow you to accomplish many wonderful things in the future. And we're just happy that you're part of this organization to be with it. So thank you, 3M. Thank you, Jayshree. And thank you to everyone listening in. Jay and Jayshree signing off. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.